From the moment Victoria was born, she was different. Her beauty wasn't just striking, it was deadly. The first time anyone laid eyes on her, they didn't just admire her features, they fell lifeless to the ground. It started at the hospital, where doctors, nurses, and even visitors who happened to glance at her face collapsed instantly. The only people who seemed immune to her mysterious curse were her parents. They loved her deeply, but they also lived in constant fear of what she could do. As Victoria grew older, her parents realized that the world was not safe for her, and worse, the world was not safe from her. They couldn't risk anyone seeing her face, so they made the painful decision to keep her isolated. While other children ran outside, played in the sunshine, and made friends, Victoria remained hidden. She wasn't like them. She couldn't be. Her mother took on the role of her teacher, homeschooling her within the walls of their house, where she was shielded from the outside world. Despite the isolation, Victoria was brilliant. She learned faster than most kids her age, devouring books, solving complex math problems, and mastering subjects effortlessly. Her intelligence was undeniable, but it came with a deep loneliness. She longed to experience life beyond the walls of her home, to see the world without layers of cloth shielding her face. She dreamed of friendships, of laughter shared with others. But she knew that was impossible. One wrong move, one accidental glance, and someone could die. That thought haunted her every day. Her parents did everything they could to make her life feel normal, but there was only so much they could do. No matter how many books she read or how much knowledge she gained, she couldn't escape the truth. She was trapped in her own existence. The older she got, the harder it became to accept. Then came the day that changed everything. Victoria turned 18, and her parents had a difficult decision to make. They had spent years protecting her, but they couldn't keep her locked away forever. It wasn't fair to her. She had to live, even if it meant taking extreme precautions. So they made a choice. Victoria would go to university, but there was one rule that could never be broken. No one could ever see her face. And so, for the first time in her life, Victoria stepped out into the world, her face completely covered, hiding a beauty that was both a blessing and a curse. When Victoria arrived at university, everything felt overwhelming. It was the first time she had ever been surrounded by so many people, the first time she had to navigate a world that wasn't just the quiet comfort of her home. But she wasn't like the other students. While they laughed, formed friendships, and enjoyed their newfound freedom, Victoria remained distant. She kept her face wrapped in thick layers of cloth, leaving only her eyes visible. It wasn't just a choice, it was a necessity. If even one person saw her face, it could mean disaster. Despite the way she kept to herself, Victoria quickly gained a reputation. She was unbelievably smart, finishing assignments before anyone else and earning perfect scores on exams. Professors praised her, impressed by her intelligence and dedication. Some students admired her from a distance, but most didn't understand her. Why did she always cover her face? What was she hiding? The rumors spread quickly. Some said she had been in a terrible accident. Others believed she had scars or some kind of illness. A few even whispered that she was hiding because she was too ugly to be seen. But no one was as determined to get to the truth as Bella. Bella was the kind of girl who needed to be the center of attention. She was popular, loud, and always surrounded by a group of admirers. She loved making fun of people she saw as weaker. And Victoria, quiet, mysterious, and different, was the perfect target. At first, it started with small jabs. Bella would make comments when Victoria walked by, snickering with her friends. Then it escalated. One day, Bella cornered Victoria in front of a group of students. "Hey, Victoria," Bella said, arms crossed. "Why do you always hide your face? Are you really that ugly?" The other students laughed, waiting to see how Victoria would react. But Victoria didn't flinch. She simply looked at Bella, her gaze calm and unreadable. "I bet you don't want to see my real face," she said softly. Bella smirked. "Oh, come on. If you're not ugly, prove it. Show us what you're hiding." Victoria shook her head. "Trust me, you don't want to see." But Bella wasn't the kind of person to back down. From that day on, she made it her mission to get under Victoria's skin, taunting her daily, convinced that one way or another, she would uncover the truth. Bella wasn't used to being ignored, and Victoria's refusal to react only made her more determined. Every day, she found new ways to taunt her. She would make loud jokes about Victoria's face covering, calling her the mummy or the invisible girl. She would nudge her friends and smirk whenever Victoria walked by, whispering cruel things just loud enough for her to hear. But no matter what Bella did, Victoria never responded. She remained focused on her studies, refusing to give Bella the satisfaction of a reaction. However, Bella wasn't the type to give up easily. If insults and mockery didn't work, she would find another way to get what she wanted. That's when she came up with her most devious plan yet. One afternoon, as students gathered in the cafeteria, Bella approached Joshua, the most popular guy on campus. He was tall, confident, and charming, the kind of guy every girl wanted to be with. Bella knew that if anyone could get close to Victoria, it was him. "Joshua," Bella purred, sliding into the seat next to him. "I need you to do something for me." Joshua raised an eyebrow. "What now, Bella? Another one of your little games?" Bella leaned in, her voice dripping with excitement. "This one's better. It's about Victoria. You know, the girl who always covers her face?" Joshua smirked. "Yeah, I've seen her. What about her?" Bella's eyes gleamed. "I want you to get close to her. Pretend to be her friend. Make her trust you. Then when she falls asleep, take off that ridiculous face cover and snap a picture. Send it to me, and I'll handle the rest." For a moment, Joshua hesitated. "Why do you care so much? She's not bothering anyone." Bella rolled her eyes. "She thinks she's better than us, hiding behind that cloth like she's some kind of mystery. I bet she's just ugly and embarrassed. We need to show everyone what she's really hiding." Joshua wasn't a fan of Bella's mean-spirited games, but saying no to her wasn't easy. She had a way of pressuring people until they gave in. After a moment, he sighed. "Fine," he said. "I'll do it." He figured it wouldn't be hard. Victoria was quiet and didn't have any friends. How difficult could it be to gain her trust? He had no idea that what he was about to do would change everything. Joshua had always been confident, but as he carried out Bella's plan, something unexpected happened. He started to like Victoria. At first, he approached her out of obligation, sitting near her during lectures and pretending to take an interest in their professor's lessons. She barely acknowledged him, used to people either ignoring her or mocking her from a distance. But Joshua was patient. He didn't push too hard. One day, he casually sat beside her in the library. "Hey," he said in a friendly tone. "You're Victoria, right?" She looked up, her eyes peeking out from behind the layers of cloth covering her face. "Yes," she said cautiously. "I see you around a lot," he continued. "You seem interesting. I thought we could be friends." Victoria frowned. "Why would you want to be friends with someone like me?" Joshua laughed lightly. "Why not? You're smart. You don't follow the crowd. That's cool." But Victoria didn't respond right away. She had learned not to trust people easily, but there was something about Joshua that seemed different. He didn't laugh at her or whisper behind her back. For the first time, someone was speaking to her like she was just another student, not some kind of mystery or joke. Over the next few days, Joshua kept trying. He would sit next to her during class, walk with her after lectures, and even bring her small snacks, little things like a candy bar or a bottle of juice. Slowly, Victoria began to warm up to him. She found herself enjoying their conversations, talking to him about her favorite books, her love for science, and how she wished she could see more of the world. For the first time in her life, she felt like she had a real friend. Then came the night that changed everything. Joshua suggested they study together in her dorm room, claiming he needed help with an assignment. Victoria hesitated at first, but she eventually agreed. She even made tea for him, happy to finally have someone she could talk to. As she turned her back to grab a book, Joshua reached into his pocket. Bella had given him a small packet of sleeping powder. He hesitated, guilt twisting in his stomach. Victoria had been nothing but kind to him, but Bella's words echoed in his mind. Before he could second-guess himself, he quickly poured the powder into her cup. "Here," he said, handing her the tea. "You deserve a break." Victoria smiled behind her cloth and took a sip. Unaware that the moment she closed her eyes, everything in her life was about to fall apart. Victoria's eyelids grew heavy, and a wave of drowsiness washed over her. She barely managed to set her cup down before a deep exhaustion took over her body. "I think I'm getting sleepy," she murmured, her voice thick with fatigue. Joshua forced a smile, pretending to be concerned. "You've been working too hard," he said. "Get some rest. I'll pack up and leave." She barely managed to nod before her body gave in, her breathing slowing as she fell into a deep sleep. Joshua sat frozen for a few moments, staring at her. His heart pounded. This was it. This was what Bella wanted. His hands trembled as he reached toward her face, carefully undoing the first knot of her cloth covering. A small voice in the back of his mind screamed at him to stop, but he ignored it. He had come too far now. One by one, he loosened the knots, his breath becoming unsteady. With each movement, a strange sense of unease grew in his chest. This didn't feel right. Victoria had trusted him. She had let him into her world, even if just a little, but it was too late to turn back now. Finally, the last piece of cloth slipped away, and Joshua's entire body stiffened. Victoria's face was breathtaking. It wasn't just beautiful. It was beyond human comprehension. It was something out of a dream, something so impossibly perfect that it was almost terrifying. It wasn't just her features, it was the energy that radiated from her. An overwhelming force, something ancient and powerful, surged through the room. Joshua barely had time to process what was happening before the darkness swallowed him. His chest tightened, his vision blurred, and his legs gave out beneath him. He gasped for air, but there was none. His body collapsed onto the floor, lifeless. Minutes later, Victoria stirred. Her head felt heavy, her mind clouded. She rubbed her eyes and slowly sat up, blinking away the haze of sleep. Something felt off. Then she saw it. Her face covering lay on the floor, and in front of her, Joshua's body was sprawled motionless, his eyes wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling. Her heart stopped. "Joshua," she whispered, crawling toward him. She shook his shoulder gently. "Wake up." Nothing. Panic crashed over her like a tidal wave. She reached for her cloth with shaking hands, quickly tying it back over her face. Tears blurred her vision as she realized what had happened. "Why did you do this, Joshua?" she choked out, gripping his arm. "I warned you. I warned everyone." The sound of her cries must have carried through the dorm because moments later, a scream erupted from the hallway. Within minutes, security arrived, followed by the police. By the time they entered her room, Victoria was sitting on the floor beside Joshua's body, her face covered once more, tears still streaming down her face. "What happened here?" one of the officers demanded. Victoria swallowed the lump in her throat. Her voice trembled as she answered. "He saw my face." The room fell silent. "I didn't mean to hurt him," she whispered, her hands clenched into fists. "I warned everyone, but no one believed me." The police didn't know what to make of Victoria's words. Some of them had heard the rumors about her, whispers of a girl whose face was cursed, but none of them had ever taken it seriously. Until now, Joshua's body lay still on the floor, his eyes wide open, frozen in shock, no signs of struggle, no wounds, no explanation. "This isn't murder," one of the officers murmured to his colleague. "Something else is going on here." After questioning Victoria and speaking with her parents, the authorities made a decision. She wasn't a criminal. There was no way to prove that she had intentionally hurt Joshua. In fact, she had tried to prevent this from happening. They had no choice but to let her go. That night, when Victoria returned home, she collapsed into her mother's arms. Tears streamed down her face as she clung to the only person who had ever truly understood her. "I don't want to hurt anyone else," she sobbed. "Maybe I should just stay away from people forever." Her mother held her tightly, stroking her hair. "Oh, my sweet girl," she whispered. "You can't run from the world forever." Victoria pulled back, her face filled with pain. "But what if this happens again? What if someone else sees me?" Her mother cupped her face gently, her eyes full of love. "I know you're scared," she said, "but you've come so far, you've worked so hard. You can't let this stop you now." Victoria shook her head. "People stare at me. They don't understand. And Bella," her voice caught in her throat, "she's always trying to make me feel small. She won't stop." Her mother gave a soft smile and brushed a tear from Victoria's cheek. "You have to focus on yourself, my love. People like Bella will always exist. There will always be someone who tries to bring you down, but you don't have to listen to them. You are stronger than you know." Victoria swallowed hard, her mother's words sinking in. Could she really keep going? Could she live in a world that would never understand her? Taking a deep breath, she whispered, "I'll try, Mom. I don't want to hide anymore." Her mother's smile grew. "That's my girl. You can do anything you set your mind to, and I will be here for you every step of the way." The next morning, Victoria returned to school. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she kept her head high. She knew Bella would be waiting, ready to taunt her. But this time, Victoria was ready. The next morning, Victoria walked through the university hallways with a new sense of determination. Her heart pounded as she kept her head down, gripping the straps of her backpack tightly. She knew what was coming. Bella wouldn't let what happened go so easily. And sure enough, as soon as she stepped into the library, Bella spotted her. "Well, well, well," Bella sneered, standing up from her table. "Look who's back, the ugly killer." Victoria clenched her fists, but didn't stop walking. "Did your rich parents bribe the police to let you go?" Bella continued, her voice dripping with venom. "That must be the only reason you're still here. You're just a monster hiding behind that cloth." The students around them murmured, some watching with interest, others with discomfort. Some had always been curious about Victoria, but after Joshua's mysterious death, even more people whispered about her. Victoria took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. She had spent her whole life running away from situations like this, staying quiet, avoiding conflict, but not today. She stopped walking and turned to Bella, meeting her gaze with unwavering confidence. "At least I'm not like you." Bella's smirk faltered for just a second. Excuse me? Victoria folded her arms. You walk around this school acting like you own it, but the truth is, you're pathetic. You spend all your time chasing after boys, trying to get attention. You've been here forever, and you still haven't graduated. Maybe if you focused on your studies instead of running your mouth, you'd actually have a future. The students gasped. Bella's face turned red with anger, but Victoria wasn't finished. You think you can control people with your money and your looks, but everyone here knows the truth, Victoria continued. You're just a sad little girl desperate to feel important. You put others down to make yourself feel bigger, but guess what? You don't matter to me. Not anymore. The crowd erupted into laughter, some students whispering in agreement. Bella's friends exchanged awkward glances, suddenly not so eager to stand by her side. Bella's hands curled into fists. You'll regret this, she hissed. Victoria only shrugged. Go ahead, Bella, do whatever you want, but you'll never break me. For the first time, Bella had no comeback. She turned on her heel and stormed away, her once loyal friends hesitating before following her. Victoria took a deep breath and walked away, her heart still racing, but for the first time in her life, she felt powerful. She had faced her biggest fear and won. A week later, something changed. A new student named Dennis arrived at the university, and within minutes, he became the center of attention. Tall, confident, and effortlessly charming, he had a way of making people gravitate toward him. The girls whispered about him in the hallways, their eyes lingering a little longer whenever he walked by. Bella, always eager to claim the most popular guy as her own, was immediately interested. I must have him, she declared to her friends, flipping her hair as she watched him from across the courtyard. Just wait and see. But Dennis barely acknowledged her existence. No matter how hard she tried, batting her eyelashes, wearing her tightest dresses, even pretending to need his help, he wasn't interested. Instead, Dennis found himself drawn to someone else. Victoria. Unlike the others, he didn't seem intrigued by the mystery of her covered face or the rumors that followed her. He was simply curious about the girl who always sat alone, who seemed to exist in a world of her own. Slowly, he started sitting near her during breaks, striking up conversations about books, science, and life. And to Victoria's surprise, she found herself enjoying their talks. Bella, of course, was furious. You must have used some kind of trick on him, she snapped at Victoria one afternoon, her jealousy boiling over. You're a witch, aren't you? You bewitched him to make him ignore me. Victoria only laughed. Maybe he just doesn't like desperate girls, she said, her voice light but firm. Maybe you should try focusing on something other than chasing after boys for once. Dennis and Victoria's friendship deepened, and one evening he finally told her the truth. I don't care about your face covering, he said gently. I don't care what's underneath. I like you for who you are, Victoria. She hesitated. But what if I'm ugly? What if... I don't care, he interrupted. You're beautiful to me no matter what. His words made her heart race, but nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. That night, at his apartment, as they sat talking for hours, Dennis accidentally brushed against her face covering. It slipped. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. No, she whispered. You're gonna die. But Dennis didn't move. He didn't flinch. He only looked at her with warmth in his eyes. Victoria, he said softly, nothing's happening to me. Her eyes widened in disbelief, but how? And then she remembered the prophet's words. Her curse would only break when someone truly loved her, not for her beauty, not for her mystery, but for her soul. Tears spilled down her cheeks as Dennis reached for her hand. Maybe this is what you were waiting for, he said. Maybe you're finally free. The next morning, Victoria walked onto campus with her face uncovered for the first time in her life. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Is that Victoria? Someone whispered. She's beautiful. Bella, standing near the entrance, froze. This is what you've been hiding? She scoffed. What a joke. Victoria only smiled. Maybe next time you'll think twice before judging someone you don't know. And with that, she walked past her, head held high, finally free. Victoria's story isn't just about a curse. It's about self-acceptance, about the power of love, and about the way the world treats those who are different. How often do we judge people before we truly know them? How many times do we assume the worst about someone just because they don't fit into the mold society expects? Victoria spent her whole life hiding, not because she wanted to, but because she was afraid of how others would react. But in the end, the only thing that truly freed her was love, the kind of love that sees beyond appearances, beyond rumors, beyond fear. In a world that often values surface over substance, this story reminds us of a simple truth. Real beauty isn't something you see, It's something you feel. And the people who truly love us will always see us for who we are, not for what the world expects us to be. So, what lesson do you take away from Victoria's journey? Let's remember to look deeper, to be kinder, and to love without conditions, because sometimes the most beautiful things in the world are the ones we never expected to see.